Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today I want to talk about a recent change that YouTube made to their monetization policy here on the website. I feel like it's actually pretty tied to a lot of the more recent controversies that have happened here on the platform, right? And I think that while it's a good thing, I think that it is a little naive for everybody to get way excited over this, right? Now, I feel like anytime YouTube actually does something right, they finally make the right decision, you know, because a broken clock can still be right twice a day. But every time they finally do, they finally make that decision that it seems like is what the community wants, and maybe it's the thing that people have even been asking for a long time. Not necessarily in this case, but, you know, it's finally there. They finally did it right. But you still have to remember the colossal fuck-up that came before it. I mean, sure, yeah, they did finally change some policies for the better, and they did actually make it easier for content creators to monetize sensitive subjects and whatnot on their channels, but even then, like, that's not, in my opinion, enough. And it's not only not enough, but it's kind of too little too late in a way. Now, of course, I am grateful that ultimately these changes did come, but to pretend that they came in our best interest and it was just something that YouTube really kind of thought up on the fly to really help out creators is just not even close to telling the truth. This is a policy that, had YouTube not been pressured by the creator community, had there not been years worth of people basically bitching over demonetization and whatnot, rules like this would not be getting changed. So there's a couple new types of content that YouTube is kind of, I guess, loosening the tie on a little bit, if that makes sense. YouTube has finally decided that, hey, you know, maybe we are actually over-policing the platform just a little bit, right? Maybe we are going a little too hard on them. Maybe we are just taking money out of people's wallets over topics that really shouldn't be that big of a deal to cover. And I mean, people are happy, but ultimately I just see it as more of a scraped together response. So one of the major content changes that is coming will be that people will be able to monetize content that mentions adult sexual abuse. Now, that's a pretty dark topic to start everything on, obviously, but there's been a lot of situations here on YouTube where creators, let's just call it for what it is, they've been exposed for being predators, they've been exposed for not respecting boundaries. I mean, we could really go really into it if we wanted to, but I think for the sake of the vibes, right, maybe we won't really go into depth about that, but it's a pretty unfortunate thing, and it's not like it's something that's limited to the YouTube community, right? Like, this is something that happens pretty much everywhere. I mean, celebrities get outed all the time. These kinds of things happen. But obviously, the YouTube community is a little bit more unique in that it's a pretty vocal community, right? Like, we're a bunch of content creators who voice our opinions and let ourselves be heard from all over the world on all different types of opinions. And I mean, people are going to talk about these things, right? Whether it be their own stories or them covering news topics, these types of things, they're going to be talked about. And for YouTube to ever pretend that they could just kind of shut down these types of conversations by demonetizing them and levying community guideline strikes against people for talking about things like the EDP 445 situation, it's insane. Like, it's stupid. I feel like was pretty clear from the jump wasn't going to work, but obviously YouTube, they don't have that same, it seems like, foresight that some of us have. When it comes to these things, man, they're willing to give anything to try when it comes to censorship, and that's just what it is. So another form of content that is now more easily monetizable is content that is discussing things such as eating disorders. So bulimia and things like that, I guess, are going to be more monetizable. You'll notice that these little topics or whatever that are being opened up, they're pretty shitty, right? Like, they're not fun things to talk about by any stretch. But even then, these are things that are real. These are things that happen in society. These are things that unfortunately affect a pretty wide spectrum of people, and the reality is, pretending like it doesn't exist and sticking your head in the sand and deciding, oh, well, no creator can monetize based on talking about these things, right? Like, that doesn't do anything. That doesn't do anything to help anyone. It doesn't make this type of content less prevalent. It doesn't make people, you know, less graphic, I guess, in detailing these things. Like, I don't know. I'm not really sure ultimately what YouTube's full intentions on preventing that type of content from being monetized was in the first place, but when it comes down to these types of, like, monetization arguments, one thing I've always thought is just insane is the double standards that are truthfully just, let's just say it, held not only on YouTube, but just in kind of like the online communities in general, in all reality, right? Like, I mean, for instance, when it comes to real world events like tragedies, anything, really, anything of any significance. The world has kind of evolved where, 50, 60 years ago, if you wanted to hear somebody talk about the ongoing war or whatever vaccine or disease or virus is going on right now, like whatever is kind of fucking up the world at that point in time, or whatever's going on in the news, you kind of just had to turn on the TV or the radio and listen to the news anchor. But now you can open up your phone, go to YouTube, and you can hear some fucking mid-20s guy from Ohio in his office talking about whatever. And that's just the way the world works. Like, the internet has opened up so many different avenues for people. And the truth is, even to an extent, YouTube allows like the mainstream media and these quote-unquote trusted platforms to essentially cover whatever they want with no repercussions, right? I mean, they can monetize whatever the fuck they want. They don't get age restricted. They don't get community guideline strikes. Nothing like that. If you're CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, BBC, TMZ, fucking any of them, right? Washington Post, Los Angeles Times, whatever it be, right? Like, you are essentially in a protected class on YouTube. Whereas they can talk about all these types of things and they don't have to face any repercussions, though. The everyday creators like me, you, whoever else, right? We always have these weird arbitrary rules decided on what we're allowed to talk about, right? And this is just another example of that. I mean, you mean to tell me that if some celebrity had some sort of eating disorder thing go public 3 years ago and BBC covered it, that YouTube wouldn't let them monetize it? You know what I mean? Or if Biden's daughter, for whatever reason, had some sort of eating disorder, you think they wouldn't let the media cover that? But of course, when it's just the YouTubers and it's the actual creator community doing something, there's a completely different standard held. And even in society, like, people are like, oh, why would you expect to be monetized on sensitive topics, man? Like, why would a website want to advertise on these things? For the same reason that, once again, the media's been advertising and making money off of all these things for however long they have been. Like, why is it okay for one group of people to cover something, give their insight and their opinions and their takes on it, and, cover whatever it is, but then others can't, right? And truth be told, these kinds of loosening of these restrictions and whatnot, in my personal opinion, is too little. I mean, this, of course, is good that they've opened up a couple more communities of people to be able to talk about things or whatever, right? But this still doesn't address the dozens of other issues and topics and communities and whatnot that have gotten the pretty bad end of the stick when it comes to demonetization on YouTube. And sure, YouTube can do things like this, like they can basically update their guidelines to make more types of content monetizable and whatnot, but that still doesn't give, at least me personally, the ease of mind thinking that this platform actually has my best interests in mind. Sure, you allowed me to monetize a few new types of content that I otherwise would not have been allowed to monetize. Now, at the same time, have you fixed the blatant copyright abuse that takes place on the platform? Oh, you haven't? You haven't done that yet? Oh, okay. Well, what about YouTube Studio? Every time you update it, it becomes harder to use, and it's getting worse, and it's constantly got all these issues and bugs. Oh, we're not doing anything about that either? Oh, okay. Oh, well, what about the 9 million other fucking issues that have happened on this platform in the last 6 to 7 years? We doing anything to address those? Ah, no, we're not. Gotcha, okay. Just a couple new types of content to monetize. Gotcha, guys. Thank you. Like, yes, sure. Am I able to credit YouTube when they do something good? Yeah. I can tell them, yeah, sure, that this is a good decision. This should happen. These types of loosening of the restrictions should be commonplace. But that's the issue right there. It's not commonplace. For every good move like this that YouTube makes, there's at least 2 or 3 bad ones that end up following the way in the next couple months afterwards, where honestly it feels like they take like 5 steps backward, 1 step forward. This kind of change doesn't affect the fact that this platform is becoming heavily corporatized, and there's really no way to avoid it. I mean, you kind of, in a way, have to play ball. You kind of have to fall in line in a way. And sure, that's what happens with a lot of platforms, especially when they become as profitable and as established as YouTube actually is. But even then, bro, like, there's so much shit that happens on this platform that YouTube just does not care about. And because now they've allowed a couple more types of monetization, I'm supposed to expect, right? Like, that these are the folks that really got my best interests in mind. They're really here to make my life as a creator easier. Why haven't, if that's the case, they opened up even more avenues? You know, why haven't they figured out other quote-unquote sensitive types of content to help people monetize? I mean, let's just call it for what it is. YouTube's competitors, Rumble, Kick, whatever it may be, right? They're over here, they're supposedly loosening the restrictions that typical social media has, right? Like, that is the argument for all of YouTube's competition is, yeah, we have less restrictions than YouTube. There's more of an open book for you to actually play with, and you can do a lot more on our platforms than you can on YouTube. And I mean, it's not like these websites are killing YouTube or anything crazy, but even then, right, like in a market where you think you'd have to adapt and like try to work out the competition, they're just watching these other websites become more openly free speech, becoming more openly accepting of different creators who create quote unquote risque or controversial content. And I feel like this is a response from YouTube. You know, they see the pressure, they hear people getting pissed off because YouTubers are getting community guideline strikes for calling out pedophiles. They're seeing people's YouTube channels getting deleted because, you know, the topic they covered is too quote unquote, you know, sensitive or too bad or problematic. This type of shit just can't continue for the platform. And, you know, they can make all these changes all they want, but until these other big problems are finally addressed, I'm not going to sit here and praise YouTube for doing what they should have done years ago. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, talking about YouTube's recent changes and signing out.